Welcome. We will let you know when we will start and count down before.
Where do you join you from? Let us know in the comment field. Do you already know our speaker? Give a shout out and let us know how.
Ask anything during the session in the comment field, and we will bring it up to the speaker or answer it in the chat. Are you ready? We start in 30 seconds from now.
Welcome to this micro course, providing you with best practice skills and know-how. This session is given to you by the Van Haren Group, your partner to enable best practice learning. With your host, Maurits van der Plas.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Sorry for that. Welcome, everybody, to this Introduction to the BIAN Architecture Practitioner Certification webinar. I'm here with Nish from CC&C Solutions. Me and Nishan have given this presentation also in our Asia region webinar and also once for BIAN itself. So this is more for people based in different regions, and we'll tell you more about the BIAN Architecture Practitioner Certifications. Yeah, it's rocket science. So if we go to the next slide, I'll first, as mentioned, Maurits here and Nish, Global Head of Banking and Financial Services. Really glad that Nish can go into the detail, and I'll just kick off with an introduction of BIAN and the certification scheme. Indeed, here the agenda for today, I'll kick off, and then Nish will go a bit more in depth what you can expect in the practitioner practitioner course and also certification. What makes it a practitioner course and what is different than the previous foundation course. And then we close off with a Q&A session. And then about BIAN itself, to start off, I'm not sure who here does not know about BIAN. I presume that you know a bit about BIAN. So BIAN is the Banking Industry Architecture Network. It exists since 2008. And if we go to the next slide, the mission of BIAN has remained the same for the last almost 20 years. And that's to reduce complexity for banks, reduce the integration cost for banks, and to create a general architecture that banks and financial services institutes can share amongst each other. Yeah, and then if you want to know more, feel free to have a look at BIAN. Indeed, if we then look, okay, BIAN is a membership organization. So here's an overview of some financial institutes that are members of BIAN. Throughout the globe, all the big institutes are BIAN members. So here we see from Citibank to Bank de Peru, to JP Morgan is on there, Wells Fargo, Absa Bank in South Africa, you name it. So we cover the entire globe. Then besides financial service institutes, or banks basically, we also have, as they are called, partners. So there's also more solution providers. So for example, these can be consultancy firms, but it can also be technology firms, KPMG in the consultancy side, Accenture, I believe McKinsey is also there, Red Hat is a member, IBM is one of the founding members and long-lasting members, Cognizant, you name it. And then also besides these, we have some more partners, so that there's a big amount of partners. TCS is a long-lasting partner, ServiceNow, who doesn't know them, let's say. And then we have a few training and education partners. So there's the partners that are the standards bodies, like the Open Group, like OMG. And so the agreement, like ISO, the agreement that BIAN has with these standards bodies is that they can exchange each other's standards without duplicating content. So the idea is to let's not reinvent the wheel and leverage each other's know-how, IP, and let's not duplicate things and respect each other in that sense. And besides these standards bodies, there's also education partners, training partners. We have CC&C Solutions, which Nishan represents for us today, and Vision and Play Digital Consulting, which are also the training partners that are part of the training working group within BIAN. So BIAN exists out of working groups, and all these working groups create the content. So it's a member organization for the members, but also by the members. So most of the content in BIAN is actually created by the members itself. And the training and certification is created out of the training and learning working group. And if we then go to the next slide, then indeed this learning working group, here we quickly see what we have achieved so far. And among some of that achievements last year was that we released new training and certification courses and pathways. So the BIAN Foundation course has been available for, I think, 5+ years, probably longer. And on top of that, we now released 4 practitioner courses. And that's what we'll talk about more today, really highlighting the BIAN Architecture Practitioner course. And if we go to the next slide, we have a bit more of a layout view of that. So the BIAN Foundation course was already there, but it's been transformed from a 2-day course to a 1-day course. The 2-day course was a BIAN Architecture course. Now it's more a BIAN Foundation course, going more into what is the theory behind BIAN and what is BIAN all about. So the foundation course is more for anybody working in an organization that works with BIAN, so that the team around also understands the terminology and what BIAN is about. And then we split on disciplines. So the BIAN Banking Architecture Practitioner training and certification is really about, as the name says, architecture. And that's a 2-day course. And the idea is that it's not only the theory, but also more the practice, going much more into case studies. Then there in the left top, you also see the C-level business value and benefits. That's more of a workshop than really a course. There's no certification attached to that one. And that course, again, the name says it, is really for C-level or decision makers. It doesn't go so much into the theory of BIAN, but more what the benefits are and why C-level or management should get involved with BIAN or benefits from it. So that's not really part of the learning journey for professionals that work with BIAN. It's more to get your stakeholders to endorse and work with BIAN. All these products are often offered by our training partners. The ones in blue, the practitioner courses, you can only do them through training parties. The one in red orange, you could do that via self-study, e-learning, or training partner. But the rest, you need to go to a training company to to learn it, also because it's practitioner and it's more practice. So we feel, the organization and learning group feels like you really need to experience it and get that experience from the experts, from the consultants that can tell you more about it. And therefore, in-class training or virtual is mandatory. And then I think I hand over to Nishan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, well, that was my talk so far. Nishan, Nish, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Maurits. And hi, everybody. Great to have the opportunity to present to you today. If you have any questions, if there's issues with sound, or you don't like the way Maurits and I look, or whatever feedback you have, just paste it into the feedback chat, and we'd be happy to address it as we go. So as Maurits mentioned, I work for CC&C Solutions, one of the 3 accredited training partners of BIAN, and we also were the ones who created this revamped architecture practitioner course in collaboration with BIAN.
Good add-on. Thank you sorry for me not mentioning that. So Nish is also the lead architect of this course. So minor but important detail. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're very, very, very proud to obviously be a part of the elite group that is working on these training courses and delivering them. So we work with clients all over the world to help uplift their BIAN capability, starting with training, but also offering consultancy services as well. So I'm really happy to be here today to talk to you about the BIAN Architecture Practitioner certification. So, as with all things, it's really important to begin with the why, so you know why you're doing what you're doing. And the why for BIAN has never been more important today than ever, right? So we know that things are moving faster and faster in the world in general. We know banks in particular really need to bring agility into the DNA of how they work. And gone are the days where you can just spend years and years doing these big bang transformations and taking forever to kind of shift the dial. Those days are long gone, right? Agility is the key to survival. And so what BIAN gives you, regardless of your transformation agenda, is it gives you a modular service-based foundation, and it enables a shift to continuous change. The courses that Maurits has mentioned help you with that. So the foundation course, as Maurits said, teaches you the concepts. The practitioner courses are where you learn to apply these. And so if we look across kind of what are the key areas that BIAN has really helped shift that dial, any bank that's modernizing its legacy will benefit significantly from BIAN's reference architecture and its composable model. BIAN also has a very standardized API ecosystem to enable interoperability and enable ease of integration, which again then moves into the reducing integration costs. And lastly, being composable, it helps you future ready yourself so that you're no longer kind of stuck in these big monoliths and unable to transform quickly. Of course, it wouldn't be complete to have any of this without talking about kind of the big theme of these days, which is AI. And so all of these elements that we've just talked about are really crucial to being able to take your AI initiatives from small-scale experimentation and pilots all the way through to full-scale production and benefit realization. So, as I said, BIAN is more important than ever, and these training courses and certifications have come along, have been revamped at this time, particularly to serve that need and to equip yourself as an individual and your organizations with both the theory and the practical knowledge of how to apply it correctly and get the benefit out of it. As Maurits mentioned, the course that we're talking about today actually sits inside a learning ecosystem of other courses. The Essentials, which is really targeted at your C-level and to build awareness, is optional. It is highly recommended because having the change come from the top down is always helpful. The Foundation course is mandatory. So this is the beginning of everything else that underpins the rest of your journey. As Maurits said, it's a one-day course, and that can be taken by yourselves independently or through a training partner. Then you get into the practitioner courses, And this is where you go from that foundation into kind of more specific application. And so that's been broken down into these 4. There's the Architecture Practitioner course, which is what we're talking about today. There's the Developer and API, the Data, and the Business Advisor course as well. So today we'll be focused on the Architecture Practitioner course. In terms of who this course is for, while the foundation course has been designed to be ubiquitous for everyone, the Architecture Practitioner course also has a lot of practicality for many roles. Obviously, enterprise and solution architects are one of the key personas this has been built for, but they're not the only ones. So if you are also in the kind of consultancy space and you're a transformation lead within a bank, the practitioner course does help you with defining your scope, structuring and steering your change, and introducing a common language into your transformation. If you're an integration and API specialist, the course does have relevance for you. It does cover building interoperable services from semantic standard definitions. If you're in the data space and you're a data architect, data modeler, etc., the course does cover how to use BIAN's business object model to create these common data blocks that underpin both your transformation but also unlocking value for AI. If you're a business analyst or a domain expert or product owner, this is where the BIAN's business language and its business capability model can help you translate your business needs into solutions that are aligned to meet those needs. And lastly, if you're a technology professional or a change professional, this course will really help you kind of understand BIAN at that practical level and how to apply it in your day-to-day. So even though it's one of the 4 specialist courses, it does cover a fairly broad range of personas. And so as we cover the course content today, just keep this in mind. In terms of what the course is, it is a 2-day course, as are all the practitioner courses. Day 1 is very focused around the concepts and the business view. So it does do a recap of the foundation. It starts to go into the BIAN meta model in depth. So the BIAN meta model is basically a model of the model and a really important step in understanding how the BIAN framework holds together. As part of that, they cover the service landscape and its use as an enterprise blueprint. It also covers value streams and business capabilities. And this is a new component that's been introduced to really bridge that much needed sort of jump from the business strategy and the change investment planning down into the solutions that you build and your tech and your application and technology assets. So very, very crucial concept. And related to that is BIAN for business architecture and change portfolios. So day 1 really kind of has that business focus. Day 2 really starts to get into your application from an information integration and application design perspective. So it starts to get more into the depths of BIAN's information architecture. And then related to that, it covers the integration architecture. It also focuses on a very, very important topic, which is how do you correctly tailor BIAN to your enterprise? So while it has been designed as a sort of globally applicable, standardized banking framework, it is not intended to be a one-size-fits-all where you simply take it and mold your bank to it. Rather, you've got to take it and mold it to your bank. And so tailoring it is a really important process that has to be both taught properly and applied correctly so that you don't accidentally break the model and start to lose its benefits. It also covers BIAN's use in the application architecture space and how you use it to future-proof your APIs. And as Maurits touched on, BIAN does work with a lot of other standards. It is not setting itself out to replace standards or be the one standard that rules them all, but rather almost like a hub in which other standards can kind of plug in. And so one really good example of that is how BIAN works with TOGAF, and you'll see the synergy and the compatibility there as well. So the 2 days does cover a lot, and we will spend some time through this webinar kind of taking a peek into some of these topics, and you'll get a sense of what that covers, so that by the time we end the webinar, you walk away with a fairly good understanding of what the practitioner course will give you, so that you can start to plan how that will help you in your journey. In terms of what to expect in the room, it is not just a one-way flow of information where someone talks at you for 2 days and you scribble some notes and go on with your day job. It is delivered live by an accredited training organization, as Maurits mentioned, the 3 that were covered at the start. And all the trainers are fully certified, experienced in teaching BIAN and its concepts, and they've also had experience applying it. So through the training, you will take the theory, you will mix it into worked examples. The trainer will walk you through navigating the repository, which is extremely rich and comprehensive. And so learning to navigate it helps unlock a lot of the value that you get from BIAN's open source model. And there will be group exercises as well. So it really covers kind of the 4 key steps of any good sort of knowledge transfer, which is 1, you'll learn the concepts, the meta model, the landscape. Your knowledge will be checked. You'll be able to get sort of throughout the 2 days. You'll get an opportunity to test your understanding of it, make sure it's really kind of getting embedded. You will also get, post the training, if you're pursuing the certification, you will get a chance to practice applying that knowledge in the trial exams. And then lastly, and importantly, you will get to actually demonstrate your knowledge and understanding and have that demonstration be recognized by an industry standard certification, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. So the entire experience is very, very comprehensive, and the goal is not to simply brain dump a whole bunch of words at you, but rather to really bring your understanding up to a level where you're confident in practically applying BIAN in your role. So we'll go through sort of a few of the concepts I talked about earlier that are in the practitioner course. We'll just spend the next few slides taking a peek at what they cover. And again, this is intended to give you a sort of a view and a flavor. It is obviously not doing the whole course in this very short webinar. And so as we go through these, if you have questions, please post them into the chat. My colleague Maurits will be monitoring it, and we will aim to answer as many, if not all, the questions that come up through this webinar. So one of the first things you'll learn about BIAN is that it is made up of a set of standardized building blocks. These building blocks are business capabilities. They're not technology systems or technology processes. These are banking capabilities, but they've been defined in such a way that they are non-overlapping and that they collectively describe the entire bank. And that's actually not as easy to do as you might think, right? So many banks define their own capability models, and in many cases we've seen, there are some challenges with doing that in a way that ensures no ambiguity, no dispute about where the responsibility of a certain business process would sit. BIAN has tackled that, and it's been battle tested. It's been put together through a consortium over many, many years and used in earnest in the field. And so rather than you trying to roll your own, it makes perfect sense to take something that some of the biggest banks in the world and some of the top minds in the world have spent a long time putting together. And that's what they call the service landscape. So you can liken it to a periodic table of elements. For those of you who remember your chemistry, each of these blocks, it can be likened to an element on the periodic table in that they are unique, each are different, but you can combine them in different ways to achieve different things. So some of the characteristics of BIAN's building blocks or service domains are: 1, they are complete and bounded. So it's a finite set, it covers all of banking. There's not, you don't have a situation where you have to keep going and defining hundreds and hundreds more of these. These collectively will cover pretty much what every bank does. Every service domain is unique and holds a single non-overlapping responsibility. And you'll see this term MISI, which stands for mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So the mutually exclusive piece is the fact that these do not overlap. They've been defined using a very structured pattern that ensures that you don't have a case where two of the service domains end up, doing the same thing and therefore causing confusion. The third is that they can be combined to build pretty much any banking process that you can think of. So the whole point of using these building blocks is that you orchestrate them to assemble any process or any journey that your customers take today or that you want to define for the future. And by doing that, you create a lot of agility, because modifying those processes, improving them, modernizing them for whatever the next wave of technology that's around the corner, all of those things are made far easier if you're orchestrating a discrete set of blocks. So if you think about it like Lego, rather than carving one thing out of a big rock, which may look exactly the way you want today, but if you want to make changes to it, you either have to buy a different rock and carve that, or you end up kind of chipping this rock away and it looks like a Frankenstein. Instead, if you were to build it using Lego blocks, you can quickly disassemble and reassemble them without a significant amount of rework. So the ability to combine these through the standardized APIs is an extremely powerful characteristic of BIAN. Another one, and this is often overlooked, but it provides a stable frame of reference. So if you adopt BIAN as a blueprint, as the sort of common representation of your bank, because each of these service domains are outlined in business terms, but are used to define your application and technology layer, they actually create a very stable frame of reference. So if you get your business starting to talk about business capabilities in terms of these service domains, because these service domain definitions do not change, then the business anchoring to them and then technology anchoring to them creates the very, very vital bridge, the Rosetta Stone that solves the translation problem when you are going from business terms like your strategies, your processes, your value streams, your journeys, down into your technology sort of layers of application systems, data, etc. So very, very important characteristic. And then lastly, the way that BIAN has organized the service landscape, it is organized for ease of navigation. So service domains are grouped into business domains and business areas so that it's easy to find what you need fast. Even that organizing framework is something that when a bank adopts, they can choose to tweak it. So you can, if your bank is broken into a different set of business domains and business areas, it doesn't mean that you're forced to restructure just in order to take advantage of BIAN. If it's actually the other way around, you can tailor BIAN to reflect the reality of your organization as well as the desired target state. And therefore, it's something that you can pick up straight away today and start using without any major rework or overhaul. So the training will go into the service landscape and its applicability in quite a lot of depth. Another area, as we said, that's super important as digital transformation and cloud modernization starts to give way to things like AI, is that you absolutely need to have a very good handle on how business value is delivered and how the enablement of that business value is made possible. And the mapping or translation from value streams to service domains is a crucial part of that. So the value stream says what the bank must deliver, and the service domains provide the how. So if we look at this example, of originating customer agreements, a value stream for originating customer agreements could be something like the customer initiates the request, then the bank identifies the needs, then it has to evaluate the risk based on what it's identified, and then you activate the agreement, and then you have all your post-activation services. Each of these value stream stages is delivered by orchestrating a bunch of service domains. So looking at these 5 stages, you will end up using service domains like the customer offer and the party lifecycle management and the credit rating and so on. So mapping your value stages down into the service domains that enable those value stages is a really, really important discipline to learn and apply in how BIAN can add value, not just at a technology layer, but at your business layer as well. We also in the training obviously cover the core concept, which is the service domain and what makes a service domain. How is it composed? How is it defined? And if you were ever to need to tailor that service domain, or in rare cases, identify your own service domains. Understanding how BIAN has defined these service domains gives you a lot of confidence in being able to tailor it to your needs or create new ones. So it covers some of the key characteristics such as separation of concerns, loose coupling, reusability, encapsulation, interoperability, and service orientation. And for those of you who had your roots in things like object-oriented programming, you'll see a lot of similarity there, where you're really going back to kind of that best practice of how do you break things apart so that you're not dealing with one very large complex problem, but you're dealing with a bunch of smaller elements like the Lego brick analogy that can be composed in different ways. And these 6 characteristics are part of the DNA of the service domains and what makes it possible to use them as these building blocks. So in the room, we take a real service domain apart. We look at its responsibility, its boundary, we look at the services it offers the bank. And through use of the digital repository and worked examples, we make sure that you as a trainee really understand what a service domain is made up of and how it hangs together with the rest of the framework. As part of examining the service domain, we also look at the building blocks of the how they make up the building blocks to describe any bank. So to that end, we cover the meta model, which is what are all of the elements that make up the BIAN framework. And so elements of the meta model include the service landscape, which we touched on earlier, the periodic table of elements. It includes the service domain, and it also includes a number of other really, really important elements that play extremely critical roles in bringing value to your architecture. So the control record is the information that a particular service domain maintains for the entire life cycle of the asset that it manages. The business object model is an enterprise view of the bank's shared information, modeled in such a way that the business objects, just like service domains, are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. The service operation and semantic APIs talks to the use of BIAN for interoperability and integration. So there is a very important role that's played on how service domains expose their services, because that is the mechanism through which they can be assembled and that they can easily be swapped in and out and reassembled in an agile manner without having to rewrite entire swathes of processes or software. The business scenarios and wireframes are also brought in here. They are just ways of showing how service domains can be orchestrated or integrated to achieve some kind of business outcome. And it also covers business capabilities, which is how you take these service domains and link them up into your business layer. So all of these elements of the meta model play a very, very crucial role in the way BIAN is applied to act as your reference architecture, to act as your integration architecture, your information architecture, and so on. So through the training, you'll get a very, very good grounding on each of these concepts, and then how you use them in ensuring that the way you tailor BIAN and apply it to your bank is done in a way that preserves the integrity of the model. Another very critical concept is the enterprise blueprint and how BIAN can be a frame of reference for the whole bank, not just at the sort of application or technology layer, but across all layers. So the training goes through how you overlay the service domain or the service landscape at your business layer and express your business as an orchestration of building blocks. It can also be applied across your application landscape, and you can map your applications to those same building blocks. And it can be connected down through into your technology landscape through configuration, and you can see how it sort of connects at that level as well. So the key with this is by applying the BIAN frame of reference at all layers, you actually start to create a linkage from things like your strategic objectives, your OKRs, your business goals, down through to your strategies, down through to your capabilities, down through to your application and data, and then down through to your infrastructure. The common piece to all of this is the service domain. And so you'll see how you can then apply this very critical concept throughout the organization at the different layers to add value. BIAN is a very powerful framework for your business architecture as well. So because you can express any business process as an orchestration of these service domains, and you can assign clear non-overlapping ownership, you can really start to divide and conquer and surface gaps in your business architecture and in your business processes. So for example, if you have a loan sale process expressed as these BIAN building blocks, in your analysis, you may find that, okay, we are doing a customer offer, and then we are referencing or updating a product directory, we're establishing a customer agreement, doing a credit rating, and then issuing a mortgage loan. You may suddenly find that, hang on a second, where is the customer credit rating actually occurring? And if we don't have an enabled solution for that, maybe it's manual or maybe you don't do it at all, you can start to identify these gaps. It also allows you to compare solutions. So you can say, well, we actually have multiple ways of establishing the customer agreement, and by mapping it into this view, you can start to identify where you're doing it in multiple places, and maybe you can consolidate that and pick your best of breed, and start to reduce cost and streamline your operations. So the application of BIAN at the business architecture layer is a very powerful way to start breaking down what are sometimes very complicated and opaque processes into something that allows you to actually understand what's going on and who's doing it, and whether you've got overlaps and gaps and so on. So in the training itself, you'll walk through practical examples of this as well. The next thing that we cover is information architecture. And this is increasingly becoming more and more important as the early adopters of AI have started to see the value of cleaning up your data and your information architecture to unlock hallucination-free business value out of AI solutions. So, BIAN came along many years before AI sort of grew into prominence, and saw the importance of organizing the information that a service domain owns, and had the concept of a control record, which in turn can be modeled into an enterprise level view of business objects. So the service domain provides your elemental capability. The control record manages the information that service domain is responsible for. And then the business object model gives an enterprise view of that same information in a way that is reusable, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. The training will go into more advanced concepts like your asset types, your generic artifacts, and your behavior qualifiers, which are all ways to, all views of this data and ways to decompose functionality into more specific behaviors. So the training will go into this in quite a bit of depth, and that equips you with the understanding and the confidence to be able to, once again, tailor this for your organization. The other piece that BIAN's very well known for solving is the interoperability and standardizing APIs. So this is a very common use case for BIAN, and many banks have gotten quick wins out of simply standardizing the interface layers to the BIAN standard, even if the under the hood work of decomposing monoliths into service domains is ongoing. You can absolutely get value out of building facades and ESB type solutions that standardize your APIs, with the confidence that if you're working with any vendor solution, third-party solution that is also BIAN aligned, then your integration cost, which normally for transformation is a significant percentage of spend, it drastically reduces. So we cover how service domains, their functionality and their information is all accessed through service operations. These service operations can be described as semantic APIs, and BIAN's actually published standardized machine-readable Swagger files that a developer can pick up and actually add the implementation details, and thereby considerably speed up development. So the training will go through what are service operations, how are they defined, how do you identify your own and create your own, and therefore how to start using BIAN as the foundation for your integration architecture. We mentioned earlier that BIAN is not ever really intended to be picked up as is and then plonked into your organization with an expectation that it immediately fits and describes your business exactly. So BIAN's very conscious that every bank around the world is different. It has standardized at a semantic level, but if you were to start to look at how that then translates practically into kind of your logical and physical, there is work involved there. So even at that semantic level, it is important to make sure that the application of BIAN reflects your particular business, your products, your channels, the way you've organized around lines of business or customer segments, and then of course your management levels. So you always start with the standard BIAN landscape, but there is a very critical step, which is to tailor that in order to get your unique enterprise blueprint. This has to be done in a particular way, keeping certain rules and guidelines in mind so that you don't inadvertently start to break the model and suddenly introduce overlapping capabilities, ambiguous responsibilities, duplicate business objects. There's a way to make sure that those fall into those traps, and the training does go into that at a very practical level, and you'll come away with the confidence, whether you're an architect or another role, you'll come away with the confidence of how to ensure that when you adopt BIAN and suit it to your organization, you don't inadvertently lose the benefits that it brings by breaking it. So and that's just a flavor, right? There are, obviously in 2 days, there's quite a lot to cover. And so we've kind of just touched on a glimpse of a few of them. Having completed the 2-day course, what you walk away with is not just the theory, but a practical understanding how to apply it. But the next step is to be able to demonstrate that and to be recognized for your understanding of how to apply BIAN. So the Architecture Practitioner course does come with its own credential, its own certification. And this tests your understanding and demonstrates to the world your understanding of being able to apply the framework and the meta model and the service landscape in practice, to be able to translate business requirements into BIAN-aligned architectural solutions, to be able to design and involve modular interoperable architectures, to be able to navigate the digital repository, leverage the significant amount of artifacts that are made available for anyone's use, and to tailor BIAN to your own enterprise and align it to other standards you might use, like TOGAF. So it is a very credible certification that tells your organization and the world what you've come away with. Now, this has value for you as an individual because it proves you can apply BIAN, not just kind of talk about it. It builds your credibility as a banking architect. It gives you that competitive edge in a very specialized field, and it's a recognized and shareable credential. It travels with you. For your organization, if you start to adopt it across teams and across the enterprise, you start to get a common architectural language. You can specify a baseline capability that can be built upon to speed up BIAN adoption. You start to make your change portfolio and your estimates more coherent, and in turn lower delivery risk on your transformation work. So the value is both to you as an individual and to the organization. And the certification exam itself is made up of 60 multiple choice questions. It is done over 1 hour timed. You can't pause and sort of stop it. It is a 70% pass mark and a closed book exam. The 70% pass mark doesn't seem very high, but the exam really tests your understanding of BIAN. They're not easy questions, even though they're multiple choice. And so even getting a 70 and above really will demonstrate that you understand the framework well. There is a textbook that comes with that. So when you purchase the certification, you get a book, the BIAN second edition, and when you pass it, you earn the BIAN certification Banking Architect Practitioner. Now, during the training, as we mentioned earlier, you will tackle sample questions as you go. So that tests that you're really understanding and understanding the concepts. And if you get them wrong, you'll understand why, and you'll kind of use that as a mechanism to keep strengthening your understanding. And the other thing that's important to note is the certification voucher entitles you to unlimited trial exams before the real one. And that is something that is very strongly encouraged, and that is to sit multiple trials. You'll get quite detailed feedback from the trial attempts. You'll understand what you got correct, what you didn't get correct. You'll be able to go back, use the second edition book to bolster whatever knowledge you need to cover to get it right the next time. And then you kind of, when you go and sit the exam, you'll have the confidence to get that pass mark, because you do only get one shot at the exam per certification voucher. So the key things you'll need to do is obviously, one, do the training itself, but secondly, really study the book. Thirdly, do the practice exams and keep studying the book to make sure you understand why you got something wrong. And if you do all of that, you'll be in a very good position to get that pass mark and get that certification. So with that, we've kind of covered, why the course matters, why BIAN matters. We've covered what the course covers and gone into a little bit more detail about it. And we've looked at the certification step and why that's important, why it adds value to you and the organization, and what it's actually made for. So with that, our guided tour of the BIAN Architecture Practitioner is now at an end, but this is where the fun part begins, because we can address all your questions. So I'm going to hand back to Maurits to facilitate that section.
Yeah, thank you, Nish. So we didn't have too many questions so far. So I got a few prepared here as well. Some are really BIAN orientated, some deviate a bit from the role to get a broader view in the industry. Again, if somebody has a question, feel free to ask it now. BIAN related or BIAN course related, or BIAN architecture related. Nishan can answer all of them. Not sure all, but a lot, I reckon. So this is your chance to leverage that opportunity. So Nish, you mentioned AI already a bit, and how BIAN prepares organizations for the transformations happening with AI. Is BIAN using AI themselves already? And can you give some examples how BIAN is leveraging AI? So what's happening there?
Absolutely right. So we can think about it both ways. We can think about it as, how does BIAN help you accelerate your AI agenda? And we can think about it as, how does AI help you with how is BIAN itself leveraging AI to improve the framework, and how can you leverage AI to adopt BIAN? So to answer Maurits' specific question, how is BIAN themselves using AI? That's actually been a significant area of focus over the last 24 months. BIAN has done a tremendous amount of work in its tooling and also in sort of overlaying agentic chat capability across the BIAN knowledge base to make it easier for practitioners and other stakeholders to access the content and understand it. So there's a chat interface to the BIAN repository. There is a set of tooling which uses AI to help you compose solutions and even goes into code generation. And there's also an AI-based product certification tooling, which will allow you to submit your solutions and get basically a very detailed scoring and assessment of how closely you align to BIAN, and where you don't, what you need to do about it. So BIAN's really leaned into AI quite significantly and is leading by example in using it in those areas I've just mentioned to make both the user experience and access to BIAN easier, but also to build the framework itself. So there's quite a bit of work happening as we speak to enrich the BIAN model to facilitate using the information in that model for generative AI use cases. So that's another piece of work that's going on, which a couple of the BIAN partners, including CC&C, are closely involved in. And so when that gets released, you will find that by adopting the next version, you'll find it easier to plug BIAN into your own tooling and generative AI use cases and take advantage of the enriched model to feed your use of AI in defining your architecture. So there's quite a lot that's going on in that space.
Yeah, thank you for addressing. And so this is a bit BIAN independently, but I know that in the next BIAN Amsterdam event around March, they will also look into this, and that's more so. AI is really changing. Well, I think all roles, all companies. And how do you think? You don't have to predict, but maybe just give your view. How does the role of EA change due to AI? So probably building architecture will be way easier. So before you couldn't the architect was not building. Now you can build much easier. How is that role changing? What's the impact do you think?
Yeah, it's look, and this is maybe subject to different opinions as well, but I'll give you mine. So a lot of, for those on the call who are enterprise architects or solution architects, you'll probably identify with this. Pre-AI, a lot of an architect's work has been consumed with generating artifacts to answer point-in-time questions. So if there's a strategy being set, you kind of go, hey, I need my architecture roadmap for this domain, or I need blueprints or solutions, and these are all quite arduous tasks, right? You've got to sometimes spend weeks generating these artifacts. They begin to decay as soon as they're released because reality drifts from what was produced. And so a lot of an architect's time has been spent kind of playing that constant catch up, right? Like how do you refresh? How do you keep things, accurate? With generative AI, a lot of that toil has been taken away. So an architect can actually focus on maintaining the model of the organization, and things like BIAN help enormously with that. But if you can keep your model accurate, keep your model relevant, up to date, then generating point-in-time artifacts can start to be delegated to large language models, which are now doing very, very good jobs, provided that they're given the right information with the right context and the right, the right data. And so if the architect focuses on that piece, the other element of their role suddenly starts to become much faster, easier, and then they can also allow their stakeholders to engage with the architecture in richer ways, right? So you can put your own MCP on top of your architecture, let your chief product officer begin to ask questions that an MCP-enabled model can start to answer. So I think where AI will really help, and adopting BIAN will really help an architect, is federating out the architecture and making it more accessible, delegating some of the very arduous manual tasks that have to be repeated often to be done by a Gen AI, and then focusing the architect's role on where it adds the most value, which is how do you ensure that you have an accurate representation of your business and your enterprise, and can then use that representation to help set strategy, to help plan change initiatives, to streamline operations, to reduce cost, all the things that a good architecture helps you do. The architect can focus on kind of where it matters. So yeah, I think it's going to be very transformative.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. And I share your view on this. Then what we see the recent few weeks is that the BIAN EA practitioner course, the one we just discussed now, it's really picking up. In demand, we launched it late March, I think, this year. Any idea why that is? Is it just marketing? Is it we hit the right spot? Why do you?
Yeah, I think it goes back to kind of the need is greater than ever, right? So I think the early adopters of AI have kind of, you could almost kind of divide it into the groups of those who started with a bang, maybe had a whole bunch of pilots, a bunch of experimentation, and then struggled to scale it. And then the very, very, very few who came out the other side with scaled solutions that deliver a lot of business value. And I think that cycle has kind of played out long enough that those who have tried and failed can really see, okay, why weren't we successful in achieving the kind of benefits that some of these banks have published and have gained a lot of media attention. And as they do the root cause analysis, almost all of the roads point to things that BIAN addresses, right? So okay, your data's all over the place. No one has a good understanding of it. If you just unleash an AI on it, it's going to try and do a lot of interpretation and it'll hallucinate. So how do we enrich that? How do we add semantic meaning? How do we add context? Another example might be, okay, if you want to have agents that can, autonomously, access a bunch of the banking services and capabilities to meet a customer need, then those interfaces need to be standardized. How does an agent discover, the various services that the bank has? And that goes to the standardized APIs, right? So I think that part of the uptick, and I'm very confident it'll continue, is the realization that successful application of AI is an architecture problem. It's not just a case of getting some skilled AI practitioners to come into the bank and chuck a large language model on something and bolt an MCP framework on top and start to expect benefit. But it's really going to the heart of, have you organized your enterprise into these orchestratable, composable, well-defined, data-enabled building blocks? Because if you crack that problem, then all the rest of it starts to come together very, very quickly. So I think that's been a big part of it.
Okay, thank you for sharing and thank you for presenting, Nish. I think that's a wrap. If somebody has any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to Van Haren or to CC&C Solutions, and we're happy to help you. I hope you all have a good day ahead. And again, Nish, thank you, and looking forward to continue this.
My pleasure. Thanks, Maurits, and see you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We at the Van Haren Group believe that organizations can benefit from shared knowledge and experiences, and we try to help them to do so. We are an independent, worldwide recognized content provider in management best practices and standards, well known for its flexibility and years of experience. Our education partners offer specialized training using our books, courseware, e-learnings, and exams. These partners play a crucial role in delivering high-quality education to professionals, leveraging our products to ensure comprehensive and effective learning experiences. At Van Haren Group, we're more than just a publisher. Our unwavering commitment to quality, passion, trust, fairness, and forward-thinking drives everything we do. We are dedicated to empowering professionals and organizations worldwide to achieve their goals and thrive in today's dynamic landscape. Dream, learn, and achieve with Van Haren Group.
Do you want to apply a best practice yourself and maybe leverage our services? Do get in contact with us. We are more than happy to advise how to take the next step.